Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video, and today, well actually about a week ago, I went to Team Sport Karting in Leeds and had a really good time of it, but generally the whole session was kind of f***ed because apparently they were behind on time, and as an alternative to having to wait an hour before getting to drive, they just chucked everyone into a big f***off 1 hour session and then a 15-minute race at the end, which generally I was quite delighted with that because we got more karting time and a race on top of that, as you see me overtake my mate Rowan down the inside into turn 1. And due to it being a 1 hour session, you cannot say that, oh, I didn't have enough time to find any more pace or anything. We literally had an hour straight just to absolutely send it, and at one point I was so tired I needed a break, as you see a clip of me lapping Brad there after he'd been spun around at turn 1. Yeah, that was quite funny, to be honest. Meanwhile, there's a clip from my mate Lewis as well. Going into turn 1, Brad sends it down the inside, and he does the most beautiful switchback of all time. So watch out for him later on when we get into the Grand Prix. But I did have one issue with my kart, and that is I was a little bit low on power. So as you can see, the number 8 kart kind of barges me out the way. But he'd been sat behind me for a good 20 minutes, and now it was his turn to try and defend. He had a poor exit here, but look at that on the straight line. But despite my lack of top speed and acceleration, it did not stop me from being in the top 3 in all of the 3 sessions combined. And in the final session, I did end up finishing in P2 with a 41.3, and if you look at the lap times, all the laps were very close as time went on between me, Lewis and Jeremy Cartson. But for now, let me show you my best lap of the day. So there you go, pretty smooth. I was quite surprised that I wasn't P1, to be honest, but I'd like to think that my kart was a bit slower in the straights, but then again, I'm a sore loser, so take that with a huge grain of salt as we move on to what looks like a formation lap. They did the race procedure where the slowest guys would be at the front, and then people who are a little bit quicker would be at the back of the grid. So I was a little surprised to find myself in the midfield, despite the second best lap time overall. And you'll see my mate Rowan in a second kind of laughing at me, thinking he was quicker. But when I was on my break, I looked at the lap times on the screen and knew that actually I was indeed much quicker than my mate. But yeah, I'm going to be side by side with him going into turn 1. And after the last race we did where I punted him off, I'm looking to try and avoid that. We get told to look at the lights here as they go off, and we are underway for the Leeds Grand Prix. The reaction time wasn't too bad here, and I'm able to cover the inside going into turn 1. And if you just look ahead at the gaggle of karts up in front, they're all making contact. We get a hit on the rear, but it's completely fine. It's to be expected. My run up the bridge does get a little bit ruined here, and Rowan on the inside doesn't know we're 3 wide. He makes contact with the number 1 kart, and that somehow allows me to fluke my way up into P4 already. So I got very lucky there. But now, going into the flat out left-hander.
What was that? He just spun in the fucking high speed. You okay?
So kart 15 kind of lost the rear going under the bridge there and just lost the rear completely in front of Brad, which then, you know, slowed up the both of them, and I had nowhere to go. And yeah, she did hurt her back quite a fair bit there after the second bit of impact. That was basically me having nowhere to go, and her boyfriend wasn't quite pleased with me or Brad there. But yeah, it looked like quite a bad impact, and I don't know where I was supposed to go in that situation when you're meant to be flat out and committed. But the race carries on. We're going to get underway here under the yellow flag to do a rolling start here. And I will admit that I bashed my knee in quite hard after the initial impact. And even to this day, if I just feel my knee, I can literally feel where I got hit. But green flag is back out, and we are underway again here for the Leeds Grand Prix. And this time, I think everyone has got the incentive to be a little bit more careful here for the opening laps of the race. I'm just sat now behind Brad, who makes a good overtake there up the ramp, and I'm going to try and follow him through round the outside, which doesn't really usually work around in karting, but we'll have the inside line for the left-hander just after, and I get the move done ASAP, and I needed to do that. Otherwise, we might find ourselves going backwards here. So we've got the number 10 kart in P1, Brad in P2 up in front, who loses the rear as I am sat in third place behind him. I get a better exit through the final corner, and now wheel to wheel with my brother going into turn 1. We do fall back a little bit on the straight, but we keep committed to the inside, and Brad has no choice but to go out wide and let me go. So up into P2, and now this should be a pretty simple move to take the lead. And for reference, I have no idea what lap we're on, but I do know there is about 10 minutes or so of racing to go. Going into turn 1, but when we sized up a move, we have a yellow flag just in the nick of time for kart 10. And then the green flag comes out, catching me out completely as I wasn't really paying attention. I just wanted to know why there was a yellow flag. And next thing you know, we're going back racing. About half a lap later, I did catch up, and we're going to have a look on the inside line. He does go wide, and now through the fast left-hander, we're going to send it down the inside, somehow not going into the wall on the right. We do take the lead, but number 10 comes back at me on the inside. I will defend with the inside line, but he does a switchback, and now side by side on the main straight, and kart 10 looks to have retained the lead, squeezing me to the wall, and I couldn't quite get the run at the exit of turn 1 to take the lead of the Grand Prix. So for now, we just have to sit behind him, but I am very wary that everyone behind is going to be catching me and number 10 at a rate of knots. And this is quite frustrating because we do have a pace advantage, but it is quite difficult to overtake at this track. If you just cover the inside line, you know that you should be fine if you stay committed. I looked behind me there on the main straight to find that Lewis, the guy from earlier, is actually catching up to me and number 10. I faked to the inside here, going into the right-hander, and despite a huge mistake from number 10, I just cannot capitalize. There isn't enough room for me to squeeze through, and now Lewis is all over the back of me. So I'm now panicking here, because if I lose P2, I potentially lose a chance to win this race. And I know how aggressive Lewis can be. He already tries it on the inside line through the penultimate corner. I quickly cover the inside, going onto the main straight. And now we're just about going to keep hold of P2. But at the moment, we don't want to be defending. We want to be trying to attack for the lead and then trying to pull away later on. But Lewis isn't going to make it easy. You can literally see him having a look to the inside, forcing me to go defensive. And this must be a lovely little bit of breathing room for number 10, who was under so much pressure before, can now just get his head down and try and pull away from me and P3 fighting as Lewis squeezes it down the inside at the end of the lap, and I can do nothing but watch him go through. And now Lewis is in the driver's seat to try and take the lead of the race. I'll do what I can on the exit of turn 1, but couldn't quite do anything to try and pass him. And now you might hear me screaming defend to number 10, because if Lewis gets ahead of number 10, my chances of winning are basically over. So I need to try and get back ahead of Lewis as soon as possible, going through the fast left and then the fast right double right-hander, and I'm going to absolutely have a look, but not send it on my good friend just yet. And look how close we all are in the top 3. Literally bumper to bumper, as Lewis is going to have a look to the outside, but he sends number 10 off the racing line. Lewis will take the lead of the race, but number 10 is keeping it in there. And now I'm going to have a look down the inside, up the ramp. I go for the gap, and it did work out. We make contact in the straight line. I'm going to try and be a hero and hold it on the outside. It will turn to the inside, and Lewis can do nothing but watch me now take P2 and once again have a chance to take the lead of the race. However, I know Lewis will not go away, and if anything, he puts me under so much pressure. I make an uncharacteristic error hitting the wall at the first part of the left-hander, and now this is a great opportunity for Lewis to have a look. I'm all out of shape, and Lewis to the inside will squeeze me into the wall, but that is all completely fair. It is karting, and rubbing is racing. Lewis will move up into P2 again, and I now have another problem behind, as kart 1 is right behind at the back of this queue now. So instead of only having to try and attack, I have to try and defend. And here is the first example of it. Look at how much we're being slowed up by the 2 in front, and now kart 1 will send it down the inside. And now I genuinely have a threat of losing the podium here. So we move on. Kart 1 to the inside again. We make contact. And I'm so frustrated with him being there, as I'd rather look ahead than behind. So instead of that, we're going to turn defense into attack, and down the inside of Lewis. He does leave me the room and parks it on the apex at the final corner. Fantastic racing between me and him. A lot of respect being shown. But we now move on to, I think, with about 4 minutes to go, Lewis is going to try again to take the lead. Kart 10 has a terrible exit out of turn 1, and Lewis will take the lead of the race. And if I want any hope of keeping with him, I have to follow through. So we do a little bit of terrorism there at the penultimate corner, and Kart 10 will dish it back out to me. Kart 1 tries to get involved. It's all getting very scrappy here towards the end of this race. And now you can literally see Lewis with a huge lead up ahead. So I think at this point it is time to admit that we are not gonna win this race here, but we can still try and take P2, and all patience is out of the window. We're gonna go down the inside, a little bit of contact, and finally we move up into P2, this time permanently, as we skip over to the final lap where nothing else happened. But that is probably a good thing, otherwise my nerves would have gone absolutely everywhere. We see the checker flag, and we're going to claim what is P2 on the road. However, for whatever reason, instead of, counting track position, they've counted what lap times are the best. So Lewis in the end still will finish P1 with a 41.3, which is insane after an hour of driving. But as for me, I've actually now finished in P3, narrowly missing out on P2, but I don't think I care. I'm gonna count that as a P2 every single day of the week.
Yeah, chat, P2. I tried everything, but it wasn't enough. That bug over there stole my win. Someone come over.
So yeah, there we go. That is what happens when you put me in an actual racing scenario. I will still be the absolute terrorist that I am. That is the end of today's video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content. And I hope you enjoyed this one. And if you ever want more karting content, well, come back to me in at least half a year when I eventually go karting again. I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
There was the number 15 spun right there, and then Brad had nowhere to go, and it had a concertina effect, pretty much. Yeah. So it wasn't, yeah. I just kind of. Did you ever go? Not me, but Bradley.
shine, full gold.